Imagine being unable to hear the world around you, and yet being able to love so deeply that it echoes through decades. Our protagonist is a 45-year-old woman who navigates through life in silence but is rich in the language of emotions. This is her unheard love story. In her college years, she found herself in the throes of love with a young man, a hopeful law student with dreams of marriage after his sister's wedding. However, life had a different script for her. As the elder daughter in her family, the expectations of marriage weighed heavily on her shoulders. Unable to wait for her lover's timeline, she found herself walking down the aisle with another man, leaving her first love behind. And what of him, you ask? The ex-lover, despite the passing years and her marriage, remained single, his heart forever tethered to hers. A life filled with every materialistic comfort, yet empty of companionship and understanding. This tale of mine is set within the bustling city of Delhi, where I relocated with my husband, and where we welcomed the birth of our 3 children. Among the chaos of city life and the joys of motherhood, an undercurrent of loneliness began to seep in. My husband, once attentive and loving, began to retreat into himself. His newfound affinity for alcohol and his growing indifference towards our home left a void in our lives and in my heart. In this sea of solitude, I reached out to a familiar face from the past. My ex, a man I loved during my college years, appeared on my Facebook feed. To my surprise, I discovered he had remained single all these years after our separation. This revelation brought tears to my eyes and guilt to my heart. I blamed myself for his solitude. I shared this discovery with my husband, hoping for comfort, only to find him further distanced. His love and care seemed to have evaporated, replaced by an obsession with his mobile phone and endless Instagram reels. My children, now grown, lived in their own worlds, oblivious to my growing distress. In the midst of a bustling life, I found myself alone, my silent cries unheard by my own family. Despite my home filled with loved ones, I felt an echoing emptiness. The irony of it all, a life filled yet empty. In a world that never stops talking, the silent cries of the unheard often go unnoticed. Picture this. You're in the midst of a bustling household, filled with laughter, chatter, and the occasional argument. Yet, in the heart of all this commotion, you're enveloped in silence. This is the reality for our protagonist. Despite being surrounded by her husband and 3 grown children, she feels alone. She's deaf, but her inability to hear isn't the only silence she endures daily. It's the silence of her emotional struggles, her loneliness, and her deteriorating health that weigh heavily on her. Every day, she attempts to communicate her feelings, her needs, and her worries to her family. Yet her words seem to fall on deaf ears. Her husband, once attentive and loving, is now engrossed in the virtual world of his mobile phone. Her children, now adults, are wrapped up in their own lives. Meanwhile, she's left to manage the household, the finances, and her own health all on her own. To add to her struggles, she battles thyroid issues, further limiting her ability to keep up with the demands of her life. Her silent pleas for understanding, for help, echo in the emptiness of her silent world. Her strength is commendable, her resilience admirable. Yet one can't help but wonder, how much longer can she bear this burden alone? In the cacophony of life, her silent pleas for understanding and companionship remained unheard. Despite the darkness, there's always a glimmer of hope for a better tomorrow. This is her mantra, her beacon in the quietness of her world. She dreams of a tomorrow where her family sees her not as a mute machine, but as a woman with dreams, aspirations, and a heart that beats with the weight of unheard words. She yearns for her children and husband to comprehend her struggles, to appreciate the love she pours into every task, every meal, every moment. She also dreams of a better tomorrow for her former love. She hopes he finds the courage to move forward, to find a love that fills his life with the joy she could not give him. The regret is a bitter pill, but she swallows it with the hope that he finds happiness. In the silence of her world, she hopes for a day when her pain is understood, her love is valued, and her voice, though silent, is finally heard.